The sun hung low over the rugged Arizona horizon like a weary eye closing on another unforgiving day. Jack Harlan, a cowboy who'd spent the last 6 months driving cattle across the dusty plains, finally crested the hill to his modest ranch house. His boots were caked with the red earth of the frontier, his Stetson shadowed a face etched by wind and loss. The war had taken his brother, drought his parents, and time his dreams of a family. All that remained was this patch of land, a few head of cattle, and the silence that echoed louder than any gunshot. But as he pushed open the creaky door, expecting the familiar emptiness, his heart seized. There, in his bed, lay a woman, Apache, by the look of her braided hair and the intricate beadwork on her tattered dress, pale and still, her breathing shallow like a whisper in the wind. Jack froze, his hand instinctively reaching for the revolver at his hip. Raiders? Trespassers? The Apache had been pushed to the edges of these lands, their reservations a bitter compromise after years of conflict. Wheated folks like him had learned to fear the shadows, stories of ambushes fueling the divide. But as he stepped closer, the truth unfolded, no weapon in sight, just blood staining the sheets from a gash on her side, and fever glazing her dark eyes. She wasn't a threat, she was broken. "Who are you?" he muttered, more to himself than her. She stirred faintly, murmuring in a language he didn't understand, her hand clutching a small pouch like it held the world's secrets. Jack's mind raced, turn her out? Call the sheriff? But something in her vulnerability tugged at the remnants of his soul, a spark of humanity he'd thought long extinguished. He set to work without another thought, fetching clean water from the well and tearing strips from his own shirt for bandages. As he cleaned the wound, a deep knife cut, likely from some skirmish, he recalled his mother's words from childhood, kindness ain't weakness, Jack, it's the rope that pulls us through the storm. The woman, whose name he later learned was Nita, meaning bear in her tongue, woke briefly, her eyes wide with fear. She tried to rise, but pain pinned her down. "No harm," Jack said softly, his voice rough from disuse. He offered her water, and though suspicion lingered in her gaze, she drank. That night, as stars blanketed the sky, Jack sat by the fire, pondering the stranger in his home. Why here? Why him? Little did he know, this unexpected intrusion would unravel the threads of his isolated life. Days blurred into a rhythm of care. Nita's fever broke on the third morning, and with it came fragments of her story, pieced together in broken English and gestures. She was from the White Mountain Apache, fleeing a raid by outlaws who'd attacked her village for the silver mines encroaching on their land. Her husband had been killed defending their home, and in the chaos, she'd been wounded, stumbling miles until exhaustion claimed her in Jack's abandoned ranch, abandoned, she thought, from its weathered look. Jack listened, his calloused hands pausing over the stew he was stirring. They heard tales of such raids, dismissed them as frontier folklore, but seeing the pain in her eyes made it real. Ain't right, he grumbled. Folks talking, what's not theirs. For the first time in years, empathy stirred within him, a reminder that suffering wore no color. As Nita healed, unexpected bonds formed. She taught him bits of her world, the way to read the land's whispers, how juniper berries could soothe a sore throat, the stories woven into her people's songs. In return, Jack shared his own scars, the brother lost at Gettysburg, the ranch teetering on ruin from endless droughts. One evening, as they sat under the porch watching lightning dance across the desert, Nita revealed the pouch's contents, a small, carved wooden bear, a talisman from her ancestors symbolizing strength and protection. It saved me once, she said, her voice steady. Now, perhaps it saves you. Jack chuckled, but the gesture touched him deeply. He'd always been the lone rider, self-reliant to a fault, but here was a woman from a world apart showing him that strength lay in connection, not isolation. Yet, peace was fleeting. Word spread through the nearby town of Esabaje on the loose, and soon riders appeared at Jack's gate, rough men from the mining company, guns drawn, claiming Nita had stolen from their camp. Hand her over, Harlan, their leader snarled, or we'll burn this place to the ground. Jack's heart pounded, he could comply, wash his hands of the trouble, return to his solitary existence. But as he glanced back at the house where Nita watched from the window, a profound realization hit him like a thunderclap, turning her away would betray not just her, but the better man he could be. The power of humanity wasn't in grand gestures, but in standing firm when fear whispered retreat. The confrontation escalated under the noonday sun. The miners advanced, threats turning to drawn weapons. Jack barred the door, his revolver steady. She's under my roof, my protection, he declared, voice unwavering. Nita emerged then, weak but defiant, the bare talisman in hand. Go, she urged him. Not your fight. But Jack shook his head. It is now. In that moment, an unexpected turn unfolded. The miners, seeing the resolve in his eyes and perhaps a flicker of shame in their own hearts, hesitated. When, a young lad no older than 20, lowered his gun. Ain't worth it, boss. She's just a woman. Murmurs rippled through the group, and slowly, they backed off, vanishing into the dust like ghosts of old prejudices. The climax came that night, as storm clouds gathered. Nita, bandaged but whole, prepared to leave. You gave me life, she said, tears glistening. But Jack, transformed by her presence, knelt and offered the ranch as sanctuary. Stay. Build something, here, with me. It was an act of pure compassion, opening his world to hers, bridging divides etched by history. Nita hesitated, then nodded, placing the bare talisman in his palm. Together, we are strong. Years later, the ranch flourished, a haven where Apache ways intertwined with cowboy grit. Jack and Nita raised children who knew no barriers, teaching them kindness as the truest frontier. In a land scarred by division, their story whispered hope, that one selfless act could heal wounds deeper than any canyon, proving humanity's power to change lives forever. And in the quiet evenings, as Jack looked at the woman who had stumbled into his bed and into his heart, he felt inspired, knowing the greatest adventures begin not on the trail, but in the openness of the soul.